Goal setting.
Okay.
Goal setting.
Goal setting.
Goal setting.
Goal setting.
Goal setting. Goal setting. Who's got goals?
And who set them?
Yeah, well, you know what? You can be sure if you're not setting goals for yourself, someone else is setting goals
Well,
for
and
you.
the other thing I've learned is, I didn't mean to speak over you, but I'm speaking over you.
Wait, where's the food? That's the only way I can get you to shut your mouth.
So, but the other thing we've found out is that, you know, there are a couple of keys to the goal setting is tracking it, and then kind of either backing out so you have smaller steps, or being consistently working towards it, which is kind of the same thing, but it's two different ways of kind of getting there. But if you're not being consistent, you'll find yourself a few weeks or a few months down the road, you haven't done any of it.
Yeah, it really is important to take the big, hairy goal that you got for yourself. Is big.
Gotta be hairy?
Well, it doesn't have to be hairy, but it's good if you got a big goal. That's good. That can be inspiring, right? But then it can be overwhelming if you're not careful. So you got to kind of trim it back. You got to say, okay, if that's what I want to do in a year, what do I want to do in 6 months? What do I want to do in 3 months? What do I want to do next week?
Well, yeah, or maybe like if it's a job thing, you'd think, okay, what training do I need to be prepared for that? So you would take a course on whatever, Excel or Word or whatever it is you're trying to do.
Sure.
And then you can click that off, like I've done these things.
But even better if you have this big goal and you kind of pencil out all of the steps you need, and then you can kind of track them, is what you were saying, and you can kind of give yourself a little bit of pat on the back. Every step you take, you get a little incrementally closer to your goal.
And maybe as you look at it, you say, this month I'm going to do 2 items or 1 item. Next month I'm going to do 2 items. And that way, it doesn't. You feel like one of the things we found in our business, because it's an entrepreneurial business, and you can never feel like you're done, right? Or you can always feel like there's more to do. So we found that if you have a checklist of the items that you want to accomplish in the given day or week, once you get those done, you actually feel pretty empowered. I've done my actions, right?
That's right. You can feel like you're finished. You've done enough for today that you can take some time off. You can enjoy some time, because you're right. Any kind of entrepreneurial or self-directed venture can feel like the dishes in the sink are never done. I mean, there's always more to do.
And it's the same for promotions. You know, I came up in the fire department, came up in aerospace. There's always that next rung to get to, but they have requirements for those rungs, whether it's just interviews or classes or whatever. And so if you aren't self-directed enough to kind of measure what that is, like what are the components I need for that next step, you'll come to that interview and you won't have done anything.
Right, for sure. Or you'll do 10 years in the same job and you're still doing the same job. You're not actually moving forward. You gotta kind of keep that. And so for us, I do a big goal setting thing at the end of the year. There's nothing magical about January. It just happens to be the end of the year, and there's seems to be a little more downtime around us. We can take a week or 3 or 4 days to really think about what happened the previous year, which I think has been really powerful for me, because what happens for me is I get to the end of the year and I think, man, I didn't get anything done.
Right.
But if I set aside some time to really appreciate the progress that I did make, it puts a little wind in my sails for the next year.
I feel like that same thing is true for me. What I valued out of the goal setting the most was the retrospective look back, because I was able to really quantify, like I had already written down the things I wanted to accomplish, and maybe I didn't get them all, but how much did I really get done? And then we've taken it a step further. We've read this book called The 12-Week Year.
The 12-week year is very important.
The concept is, of course, you break your year down into these 12-week segments, quarters, right? So now you're thinking of this beginning and the end of this year in these quarter segments, and that can be even more helpful because it's it's not such a long run. You know, you can be a little more consistent, and you can goose yourself up for the next one.
Well, it's easier to manage. You can set a reasonable goal 12 weeks from now, and you know you can hit it. You know if it's out of
or you haven't quite hit it, but you're closer, and then the next quarter you can still get those things. But again, consistency is key, and having an action plan is key. Right. And I know what Ken likes to do is he'll create these little checklists so that you're checking things off. And if you go back down to the microscope level, you know, and you get to the day, what day's actions are. Holy cow, it doesn't even need to be that many actions in the day to get it done for the month or the week or the year.
Yeah, and you know, we know what gets measured gets done, right? We know
Who made that?
That's some guru of project management. I'm blanking on this. Peter Drucker.
Really?
Said that. Yep. And we have another guru or another mentor, Dr. Anderson.
Right.
He would say, start the habit small enough that you can do it every single day.
And never miss it, and never feel like you can't make it.
So if you want to do a lot of push-ups, you want to do 25 push-ups, or start with 1 push-up a day. Just do 1 push-up.
And if you can't even do 1, then you start on the wall.
Yeah.
Like up like this.
Yeah.
And then you work down to the table. And then you work down to your knees.
Right.
And then you go. So you try to make it as easy as you can, so that there's no excuse. You have no excuse to say I couldn't do it today.
And that concept can be applied to anything, no matter what you want to do. If you can find a way to just spend a little bit of time, because the habit, what we say, consistency trumps intensity.
Right.
Every time.
Yeah. No, and I agree with that. I don't recall hearing that specific saying, but I do.
Because your brother's the smart one.
Yeah. But I do think that is true, because there's lots of people. I've done a lot of physical training over the course of my life, and when I go to the gym, if you train too intensely, you come out like T-Rex. The next day, you can't even straighten your arms out, right?
And 2 days later, it's even worse,
oh,
right?
yeah, it's terrible. And you're likely now not to go back the next day, or the next day is even worse. So you're definitely not going to go back on day 2 or 3.
Yeah.
So now all of a sudden it's been a week, and you're like, okay, I'm ready to go back. Well, you're going to repeat, wash, rinse, repeat.
Yeah.
What you'd be better off doing is going and spend 15 minutes. Get into the routine of getting there, and just do whatever you can, and then the next day do just a little bit more, and measure it by that that feeling of soreness or whatever it is that you're doing. And same thing would be true of, I know my brother likes to write, so he would write a little bit today and a little bit more tomorrow, but never more than you think you can do in a day.
It's really, really important that you set these goals, because you're getting wind in your sails actually by accomplishing the task. You're also kind of patting yourself on the back, and you're encouraging yourself to do it again. There's another resource that you might check out too. It's an app. I think it costs a little bit, but it's pretty cool. It's called Streaks, and it measures how many times in a row. And you can set it up to measure anything, right? It's up to you. But that's pretty powerful. I'm a box checker from way back, right? But I think lots of people are motivated by how often they've been doing it. And most of us actually, like they say, 90% of your life is habitual. You don't even think about it. You've been doing it so long, you don't even think about it anymore. Well, we want to think about what those habits are. Do you have a habit of sitting down in front of the TV for 3 hours every evening? That 3 hours could be used a lot more productively.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so those are just some quick tips about setting up your day, setting up your week, setting up your month and your year, trying to be consistent, but having a methodology of going about it, right?
Yeah.
So that you can be more successful I would say, just start off with a week. Just try a week, right? Or
you want to make sure these things are in your control, and they're small enough that you can do them every day.
Right.
And let us know how it goes. If you'd like us to help you with that, we'd love to help you.
Yeah.
Right? We do lots of health coaching, so a lot of the things we're kind of talking around is about nutrition.
Some of this stuff, I know we're getting ready to wrap up, but some of this stuff applies to your finances. You may have some habitual things that cause stumbling blocks in your finances, and we can help with that too. I mean, it's just, again, a lot of times it's just talking it out and starting to measure and track it, and you start to see these things. They come right up in your feet. You almost can't miss them.
Right. So hopefully this is helpful.
Yeah.
Brothers Bistro,
out.